Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. It is I, Amalgamash, with another Project D or DeprHaven devlog, this time showing the completed implementation of the crafting system that I have. The crafting system is the crafting plugin from Hagons. Expect a tutorial about that, a nice short form tutorial before the week is done. This isn't going to be too exciting of a presentation. I'm really just going to show you in my test play exactly what this plugin is going to end up doing for my game. I have 3 crafting stations set up here, and yes, because I feel the need to say it every time, they are placeholder. I don't actually have a kitchen table as a crafting station, nor a stump, but if you wanted to have just a stump, you are of course able to do that in your project. There's nothing wrong with it. I've also got 3 places from which to grab materials. These would be like the nodes that would appear throughout the world. Now, this is to show the crafting system, not the gathering/node system. So these nodes do not conform to the final rules of the game. They are just here for me to pull materials from endlessly. Finally, I've got these 3 NPCs, and their purpose will be revealed shortly. Each one of these crafting stations gives me a menu, and right now there's nothing I can do at any of the menus. That one is for weapons. This one here, which I'm able to walk on, is for leather. You know, because of the title here in the top left of the screen that appears, top left of the menu, this one being for items. Now down here I can grab medical herbs from this node. I'll go ahead and grab 3. I can grab a stone of earth, and I can grab a leather scrap, and I can keep grabbing from these, but I'm going to go back to these crafting stations just to show you that nothing has changed. I still can't use them, and that's because I haven't learned how to do anything. Well, that's where these NPCs come in, and they don't have to be NPCs in the game necessarily, although I do plan on having NPCs talk to you through dialogue, teaching you recipes that way. I really wanted you to have items as well that you would learn crafting recipes from. So, just it's the same concept. It's going to be the same sort of set of steps, no matter whether or which way I do it, whether it's an item or an NPC. But this guy here, his placeholder text says he's an apothecary. He'll teach me how to craft potions, and now I know how. I know how to craft potions, but I can't craft potions at the leather station, and I can't craft them, of course, at the weapons station. I can craft them at the table, however. And now you can see that this menu has been populated. And although the appearance of this is not final, this is actually how I want to do this. He taught me 2 recipes. He taught me potion and magical potion. Before, there was no indication at all of what I could learn. There were no question marks. There were no silhouettes of items unlearned. None of that. And this is actually the way I prefer it for this project. However, if you wanted to use Hagons crafting plugin for your project, you could set it up to where the unknown items would show up as question marks, and that would give your player an idea of what left they had to learn to craft in your game. Now, I know how to craft the potion. The magical potion is grayed out because I don't have all the materials I need to craft that. So this still follows the rule of the highlighted items are things I can craft, the magical or the unhighlighted are things I cannot craft because I don't have what's needed. And with this crafting plugin, not only can you use materials, you can have items that don't require materials at all if for some reason you have a need to create items from nothing. And you can also just have where it costs money to craft the item but does not take away from your materials at all. So you can actually have items set up to be crafted at stations that will take your money and you can craft whatever you like, or you can have the stations out in the world set up where they don't cost any money, but they do take your materials. So you can actually utilize these in a variety of ways. Now, learning those recipes, of course, did nothing for my weapons. That's where the second NPC comes in. He's a blacksmith. He'll teach me how to craft iron tools, and now I know how. So this actually does nothing for me at the leather crafting station, but at the metal crafting station, I now have 3 things that I know how to craft: the knife, the spirit sword, and the spike shield. And again, this isn't the final appearance of the menu. This is basically showing you everything that the menu can show you, though, with the stats on the left and the dynamic stats, which is the change that will occur should you equip this weapon versus what you have, the attributes, the states, resistances and buffs, and the materials that you will need to craft this item, as well as the price, if there is a price. You have an amount that you can craft, and then you have an amount that you own currently. So right now we have a knife. I can craft one. I've got one Spirit Stone of Earth out of one needed to craft it, and the Spike Shield. I'll never be able to craft the Spirit Sword because this costs 100 gold, and even if I get a bunch of materials, I won't be able to craft it. That's just how I wanted to set this system up, so I could make sure to test and know that there would be things I couldn't craft. So I'm going to go ahead and mine a bunch more Stones of Earth, go back to my crafting station. You can see that this is still grayed out, but this is still shown in this specific order. Now, let's go talk to the third guy. He's a leathersmith. He'll teach me how to craft leather gear, and now I know how. Now I can go to my stump and craft leather items on the stump, because that's where you craft leather items, right? Anyway, we picked up leather scraps, and this is just an item that I made using default resources in Bakin so that I would have something that made sense contextually to craft these items with. And I can craft leather hat, leather tunic, thieves boots, because those two are made of leather. I can't craft the thieves boots yet because I don't have enough scraps. I'll go ahead and craft a leather hat, and you see that I did get the prompt for how many I would like to craft. That's another thing that you could turn on or off with this plugin. We'll go to the cooking station, and check it out. I can craft 7 of these knives now. Still can't craft any of the Spirit Swords. One more feature that I wanted to show off about the crafting system, and the way that I'm going to have it implemented is, or the way I may have it implemented. I haven't fully decided yet, because I don't exactly know what kind of effect it might have on the overall game, but I think that I'll have some crafting stations set up that are like Omni crafting stations. In other words, stations you can visit to craft anything as long as you know how to make that item and you have the necessary materials to do so. And this station actually has that capability. Now, since talking to Hagons, he actually has decided to act on a suggestion I had to create a crafting page that takes no category, or rather sort of like an everything category. All of the items that you know how to craft will appear on one page, and you'll be able to switch pages if you have more items than fit in one page. But for now, if you use this crafting system and you'd like to have an Omni crafting table, if you push the shift button, the shift key on your keyboard, this will actually switch through the pages, and it has to be left shift. That's important. I hope that there's a way to toggle which button this is, but the armor, weapons, and items all show up on different pages. Armor is not something that I specified for my project, and I'd really rather this not be here. So that's a setting I'm going to have to change. Items, weapons, these aren't exactly the categories that I've set up. I really want them to be items, blacksmithing, leather, the way that I've termed it with the other stations. So if this isn't a setting that I can change and kind of make sure I customize entirely on my own, then the system will default to categorize these things into 3 different categories: items, weapons, and armor, which is kind of a Bakin proprietary thing, and I don't care for that, so I'll probably skip using that particular feature. But this is the crafting system fully implemented, just not added to any relevant parts of the game, and I will back out of here and show you the code. Alright, so here we are. We've got 3 nodes, 3 stations, 3 NPCs, and these guys are all going to share the same event code between groups, so we really have just 3 different events to examine here. So we'll edit the event script for the gathering node, and again, this is not a complex gathering node. It's not based on time. It's just something that you pull items from for the purposes of testing a crafting system, and that is it. My final gathering nodes will be things that appear in slightly random places out in the wild. There will be a bit of randomness where they appear, but they'll appear in the same general areas, so you'll always know what map you need to go to and what section of the map you need to go to gather, for example, white flowers, roses, baby's breath, whatever. And the exact amount that will appear on any given day will be slightly random as well, and as well as like respawn rates and things like that. So you'll gather them, and what should happen psychologically is your brain will say, all right, now get out of here and go find something else to do immediately. We'll come back here later and gather more, or we'll gather them whenever we just head on through. So I've got a note: enter a system message confirming receipt of items. Have some items. You obtained a medical herb. And then specify the items obtained. And that's our increase decrease item. We just got one medical herb. This happens every single time we interact with this item. That's it. Now for the NPC, we're going to check out the apothecary. Edit the event script. And I did go over this a bit in the last episode, except I've added a lot more note panels to this NPC. We have a second event sheet as well. And I think we actually had the second event sheet in the last video, but we have notes here as well. So we've grown both of them. So first of all, the note says, enter dialogue for the preface of teaching the player. Then here's the conversation. I am an apothecary. I'll teach you to craft potions. There, you know now. Note, enter the item IDs to learn to craft. This assigned to the string variable CS items to learn. For more on this string variable and exactly what it is, what it means, go watch the last devlog or watch my full experience of installing and using Hygon's crafting system plugin, or watch the upcoming short form tutorial on using Hygon's crafting plugin. But it adds item IDs 3, 5, and 6 to the items to learn string. It adds it right to the end. Next, turn on the execute learning switch immediately after assigning IDs. I've misspelled immediately, whatever. Moving on, CS execute learning, turn on. This switch, it is ideal to have this turn on right after you have added something to the string so that the learning takes place immediately. Right after this switch is turned on, the plugin will do what it needs to do and then turn it back off. So the next time you turn it on, it will be adding items again in whatever other separate event you have going on. You'll be able to reuse the string variable CS items to learn. But the execute learning should happen right afterwards. So I just have a note in between them, which isn't going to hurt anything. The next note, turn on local switch so that the current page won't be repeated, and that's the local switch here, turning on. Whenever you are using Bakin, the event sheets are ran from bottom to top or last to first, and they are checked for conditions. If the conditions in the last sheet are not true, it will move on to the next one, and the next one, and the next one, all the way to the first until it has a sheet that it can run all the way, or at least start to run. So our last event sheet requires the local switch to be on. It's not on by default, and instead we'll always get sheet 1. But because sheet 1 turns on local switch number 0, now this second event sheet, this page 2, will happen every single time we interact with this event. The note says display dialogue acknowledging the previous interaction, and that's a conversation that says, I taught you alchemy. So if you talk to this guy more than once, he'll just be like, I taught you alchemy. Every single time you talk to him. I taught you alchemy. I taught you alchemy, bro. All right. Next, the crafting system, crafting stations. These guys are just they're pretty much all similar. They're pretty much all the exact same. And there's no need to have more than one event sheet because these are utility. You'll walk up to them and start using them. I guess I could have where there's a second sheet and it checks to see if you've got like crafting system unlocked, yes. And if so, then you'll be able to use it. But if crafting system unlocked is set to no, then you'll get some sort of dialogue like, hey, what is this? I'm too stupid to use it. Something like that. The note here says assign a category to the string variable. If it's left blank, all items will be craftable. And that is the crux of the Omni crafting station. If you don't put any value here and you leave the string empty, or I believe if you have the word default, then the crafting system will give you access to everything you can craft, and that station will be your Omni crafting station. However, whatever term you put here will make sure that the crafting system only shows you items that have this tag. So, in this case, it's just weapons. The next note says open the crafting menu, and then this event switch is turned on, CS Open Crafting. Again, the crafting system will open up, the interface will open up as soon as this is turned on and this event ends. And when you exit out of the event, this turns back off automatically. There's no need to turn this switch off manually ever. And this string variable here will actually empty back out. So by default, every crafting system you interact with that does not have this string variable associated or assigned will be an Omni crafting station. So I make sure that this one is always going to be used for weapons, for example, just for this test bed, and it overwrites whatever string is there. But if I leave this off, then this would just be empty, and this would be an Omni crafting station. No need to set this to empty or anything like that. You just set it once, because as soon as you leave the crafting system menu, this defaults to being nothing, and it basically waits for the next time you assign a value to it. So just the example of this happening for the Omni crafting station, the table, in this case, it had nothing assigned to it. It made sure that the string said nothing. I could just as easily delete this event panel, and it would have the exact same effect, because it would have nothing in the string, and this panel wouldn't be here to assign anything to the string to replace that value. But for sake of simplicity, in my opinion, I have it in there, sake of consistency. That is it. That is front to back the simple crafting system. You're just going to learn recipes, you're going to gather materials, and you're going to make items. What kind of items? I'm not entirely decided yet. I do know that I want to have the crafting system for buffs and debuffs, and I think there are some utility items that I would like to craft, like light sources and things that point you in the direction of your next goal, and really just things like that. I'm not too interested in making a lot of healing items and stuff for the player. But when we come back, we will be exploring the dating system. No, you're not dating a chicken. That is not the purpose of this layout. Don't even worry about it. But that is what we have to look forward to. This is really going to be a huge, huge, huge part of the game. Very scaled out. Everything looks boring here on the map. So, I mean, it's not going to be nearly as boring as it's presented here. But that's going to be a lot of fun to develop, and that may take several episodes. So, until then, thank you very much for watching. I hope you'll consider subscribing if you'd like to see more content of this nature, as well as the other amalgamated content on the channel. I will see you next time. Have a fantastic rest of your day. Let's launch into space, and bye for now.